and the ancestors are looking out for us. Todd Hayes is exposing them, man.
Okay, you see that chair right there? See how big it is?
Yeah.
Now look at the Pope chair under it. Scroll down, look at the Pope chair under
Never have it been made so clear.
Young TV. Young.
We running the game right now.
Young TV.
Time to take over.
Young
We the hottest in the game. Hit that like, hit that subscribe button. If you just not tuned in.
TV.
Share, like on your Instagram, Facebook.
Young TV.
If you tuned in, we broadcasting live from 2030, baby.
Young TV. Young
Taking over the game, baby. Oh yeah.
Young TV.
Hit that like.
Young TV.
Get them likes up in the air, you heard me?
Young TV.
Ride by. Hotel Islam.
Young TV.
Assalamu alaikum. Flown letter. Peace.
Young TV.
Hit that like.
Hey, that intro remind me of like the beginning of a movie coming on and they roll in the credits.
Yeah,
Well, it's not a movie, a series.
yeah. That's fine. That's fine, man. Hey, notice the agent is notice the principal every time the chief is on, y'all. This right here is a cease and desist on to all fraudulent banks that ain't credit unions on the land and the credit unions that's running fraud as well. We're about to get into the inner workings of this fraud, y'all. And a lot of people know, but never have it been put together like we're gonna do it tonight, man. I got 100 clips. I got 100-round drum, man. I'm telling you, I got 100-round drum. Not to mention we got Rod on, man, the walking encyclopedia. Now, like, look, Rod. Now let's get into some. I want to open up with a couple questions before we get into the tape, I mean, to the clips, with a little background. Well, we'll start with the War 1812, and the end of the National Charter. Could you break down a little bit of that? And some people saying King George came back to pretty much seize some of his stuff because of the U.S. defrauded on the contract, the 20-year contract that he had with him. They didn't honor the full contract, so King George sent his goons in to burn everything down. So could you go in a little bit on the War 1812 first, then we'll go to that next question.
Well, it was a lot of factors in the War 1812.
Mm-hmm.
First, you had the American army was fighting internally, what they called it was a civil conflict between the remnant of the South and the North, but it really wasn't that. It really was an uprising of the tribes where we took, because we had made the 1776 agreement, George Washington Challenge.
Mm-hmm.
And they was cheating because they was killing us to keep us from the ones that could educate the rest of us using the oral tradition. They was killing us. So we got fed up. The tribes got fed up, right? When they got fed up, they rebelled, right? So when you look at the War 1812, don't even look at the war. Look at the civil unrest.
Mm.
The civil unrest is the tribes rebelling, right? And I don't know how it came to a conclusion, But some kind of way, cooler heads prevailed, and they went back to the educating yourself above the condition. But these some bitches kept cheating. They never stopped cheating. And this is why it looked like that no matter what we did, we was fighting an insurmountable obstacle because we was following the rule book to the letter and they was cheating the whole time. Every time they assassinated one of our prominent figures, they cheat. Right? Every time they take one of our educators off the board, they cheat. We wasn't doing that to them. We wasn't taking their frauds out. We should have been. But we didn't have enough people that understood what was really going on versus the narrative they gave us. And under the narrative they gave us, we understand the assignment. We don't ask for nobody to go with us. We go and perform the function. Right? We don't need nobody to tell. Like, this is the only reason why it took so long. Other than the fact that it was a contract and it wasn't going to end before the contract was up, and they knew that. And so if they go back to what Rockefeller said, he said if we continue to treat them harshly, we continue to control them. Because they thought that the harsh treatment keep us in that victim mentality. Oh, we were some pole slave down there up in the bayou. We wasn't no damn slaves. We was prisoners of war on our own family farms. Right? They was trying to increase the production of the family farm and take the fun out of living as a family. Right? They was breaking the families up. This was the problem. This is why we kept having different people rise up and they cut them down, and then they villainized them. Well, we could have got over the villainization. We could have got past that. You know, depending on what they was villainized for. But we couldn't get over the fact that when they villainized them, they killed them. You can't villainize them and kill them. You can villainize them. This merit is going to outweigh the slander. They know this. So when they get to the point, it goes to the same thing with the money. Right? We had our own banking system. They had their own banking system. So they start robbing all our banks. They sensationalize outlaw bank robbers as if they was robbing the Federal Reserve, and the Federal Reserve wasn't even in them places.
Yeah, like they heroes, Jesse James and them. Go ahead.
Yeah,
Who was
but listen, the place where they was doing all this bank robbing, the Federal Reserve was not there yet. The international bankers was not there. So whose banks are they robbing? And then you understand why they heroes. They're economic hitmen.
That's what it is.
Right? It's military. The problem that most of our people have right now is they looking at everything like everybody is in the middle of a war zone. Civilian rules only apply in times of peace. We are under war rules. And very few of us understand the concept of war, the parameters of war, how war operates. Right? And we don't understand the art of war, the science of war. So when we being assaulted using all 9 areas of people activity plus 1, then we don't know that we not living like civilians. We living like hostages walking around on an encampment, being patrolled by foreign belligerent forces. Because that's exactly what the country is right now. Right? We had lawmen, but the lawmen didn't wear them type of uniforms. Everybody knew who the lawman was. All he had was a little stick pin on his shirt. They turned him into badges. Right? Or he had a scarf around his neck. In the goddamn at Texas heat. They know he the lawman because he got the scarf around his neck. It's 190 degrees in Texas. Who wears a scarf in that temperature? But he had to be identified to the tribes of the land that he's the lawman. And that's that's the burden that he carry as the lawman, that he had to wear that damn scarf. right? And then they make mockery and dangle them in front of them at high school graduations and college graduations, and they put the lawman scarf of the tribes around them and got us thinking that we really doing something because subliminally we remember it, consciously we don't. Right? So we know all this stuff. So the War 1812 was about us being fed up. And it was like, look, man, I don't know about this turn of the cheek. This shit ain't working. And that's why I wasn't born 50 years sooner.
Yeah. Hey, I got something else for you. Okay, seemed to me right after that, Andrew Jackson, even though he was a damn tyrant towards us, he paid off the national debt January 8th, 1835.
Okay, now I gotta let you know what that
22
was.
days. Hey, hold on. Let me say this right here. 22 days after that, somebody tried to put a play on him. The nigga tried to whack him. 22 days after he paid out the national debt, and then they caused the panic of 1837. Go ahead. What you got on that?
He wasn't paying off. We had our own banks.
Okay.
That stuff had nothing to do with most of the tribes on the land.
Yeah, it was a U.S. corpse.
They still moving us around on the land. Andrew Jackson, we talking Trail of Tears era.
Right. Go ahead.
Right. So he paying off a debt. It wasn't our debt.
Go ahead, right?
It was the debt of the corporation that he represented.
Go ahead.
They had borrowed that money from France and Spain and Portugal and Denmark and all them places. That came and set companies up here. Right? The Dutch company, the Virginia company, the Commonwealth company. All these different companies they sent over here. But only one of them was going to turn. They have to consolidate the war zone. If they want to have, it's about efficiency in military operations. Right? That's why they we used to have our streets and our cities, like if you look at the major cities, they like in partial circles. Concentric circles to the center was the norm, how we set up our living arrangements. Concentric circles to the center. If you look at the aerial view of Chicago, you'll see how they do, or New York, or LA, or Houston, or Dallas, you'll see how they cut the streets to make it into a squared off military zone. Streets at 45-degree angles. Our streets used to be 360 curves, or more it's half a circle. And in the center of the half a circle was what we called the center of the city.
Yeah, town square.
Right. And that's where Big Mama's seat was, what they called the mayor. See, town square used to be like her, we didn't have like a one little place called a White House. It wasn't like the White House would have been part of a complex, political things. All the politics is supposed to do is administrate the resources of the land. Now, remember, when they came with the economic hitman, they also sent some people called privateers, right? And they sent salvage teams. The salvage teams became businessmen because part of the salvage, anybody that work in salvage, they not in it for the salvage. They in it for what they can make by recovering the salvage. They don't get paid unless they recover the salvage. So the salvage team come in, then the government have to cordon off areas, right? So they give them what they call postal zones. And in these postal zones, the privateers and the salvage team are moving in, and they season things under something called the squatter right. There is no such thing as squatter right in tribal law. All of the land is sectioned up by the big mamas, and each one of the big mamas got a son that's going to enforce the law on that part of the land.
Right.
right? Now, the colonizer come in and they bring in a foreign belligerent military and call them the police. We don't know no better. Because over time of them being here and the evolution of the uniform, they seduced us into believing this is normal and they're supposed to be here.
Mm-hmm.
They're not supposed to be here.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
Every what they call a crime would be what as an act of disrespect would be brought to the tribal council to be dealt with among the two tribes if they from separate tribes or in-house if they from the same tribe.
Mm-hmm. Hit that like, y'all. Hit that subscribe button. Hey, I got another question. I got just a couple more questions and we're gonna get into these clips. Hey, Rod. So now leading up to Abraham Lincoln and the greenback, which ultimately we believe got a play put on him eventually. Could you talk a little bit about Abraham Lincoln and his bright ideas? Because that's what they call these guys at the top, a bright idea. Anything that's a bright idea goes against the status quo, man. That's not a good idea. A bright idea. Go ahead. The greenback.
Well, the greenback was a war note. Right. So you got to look at what's going on under Abraham Lincoln. He's trying to hold the Union together.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Lerone Bennett got a book called Forced into Glory about Abraham Lincoln. It was so much stuff going on around Abraham Lincoln. Right. You know, he was about me and your color.
Yep, that's right. A red man.
Yeah. But anyway, so what Abraham Lincoln was dealing with, he was dealing with international bankers that's trying to take over the government instead of subjugate the government like they end up having to do. They had to come in, they had to do what they call the soft sell. Okay, so when Abraham Lincoln is trying to hold the Union together, he can't afford to have the impropriety of working for the foreign bankers. So his team tell him, look, we need to do something for the financial market. We need a wartime note. So he put out the greenbacks. Right. Before that, all of the money was tribal notes. All you got to do is look up Confederate money. They were tribal notes. They was here before the greenback. Right. And most of the tribal notes later on down the line became termed plantation money. Plantation money was just IOUs and based on the gold, my big mama gonna send your big mama when we settled it up at the end of the month.
Okay.
Right. So it was plantation money. Now that take you back to that movie that Michael B. Jordan just played in too. When he opened up the juke joint, they had come down from Chicago. They didn't want no plantation money. Remember?
It's interesting. I'm catching on with what you're saying now. Go ahead.
Okay, now you ever heard the term "don't take no wooden nickels"?
Yeah.
The wooden nickel was a tribal currency. The nickel was just a placeholder. It wasn't the currency. It was when you get a certain amount of them, you know what tribes they from, because on the wooden nickel would be carved the symbol of the tribe who it originate from. So then when you get enough of them together, you go give them your big mama, and when they settle the books, it's like, we got this many of yours, and you got this many of hers, and everybody exchange the gold in order to balance out any inequities in transactions that took place with nickel. Well, the matriarchs traded in silver because we was using the gold for the wartime currency, for the masculine, because it's designed to, if I buy something from you and it's worth more than the gold I give you, the gold is going to call more gold to you until you made whole. That's why we was forced to use the gold. Women are traditionally the ones who balance the books. So they use silver, which represents the coins on the scale. Right? So
Mhm.
they would trade, and the silver was between the women because they was
Mhm.
less likely to make bartering trades in inequity because they dealing with the wealth at its source,
Mhm.
right? But the men is dealing with the wealth at large on the land, traversing the land. Go to the trading post. He don't got nothing to trade. He flip him a gold coin. Take what you need. He not worried about if the gold coin is going to cover the cost of what he need. Because if it don't, the gold is going to draw more gold and to meet the inequity based on metaphysical principles of balance.
Mm.
We understood the financial transaction of gold when you traveling, right? And the silver was for the women to do the business of balancing the books down to a finer percentage. So the goal was to make what's vague become specific. And then the silver is to make what's specific be understood.
Mhm.
Gold key, silver key, motherland, fatherland,
Mhm. Mhm.
right? So
Mhm.
what the fathers start doing is giving the mothers gifts of gold ornamentation that some of the sons would be told to make by the father as a smith. That's why the Smiths is some of the biggest, but we only know the Smiths, but we got to remember, you got blacksmith, you got goldsmith, right, as last names, you got greensmith, all these Smiths, they all come from, they like a branch of the same tribes, they worker tribes. When they
Mhm.
put something in front of Smith, it tell you what kind of Smith they were.
Yeah, a goldsmith, blacksmith, whatever. Yeah,
Yeah.
biggie.
Right, so we know the blacksmith worked with the wrought iron.
Yeah.
That's Big Tookie land. Patron saint
Yeah.
of those that work with the iron. Because they have when you work with the iron, it end up making you look like a bodybuilder.
Mm-hmm.
We had bodybuilders down in Mississippi, Louisiana, Alabama long before weightlifting. And they wasn't
Uncle
even
Joe.
trained. They wasn't even trained. Right? Because they worked with the metals or they worked with the puff wood. Man, I went, look, I thought I was strong coming up here. I was strong as hell. Till I got to Mississippi. Then my little cousin, half my size, was slinging my big ass around like a rag doll. I was like, what the hell? I had to get off that brute strength. I had to use some strategy on him. But strength wise, and then look, my cousin said, grab that log right there, boy. Man, that log must have weighed about 600 pounds. Man, I'm not picking that log up. I'm not picking that log up. He said, man, ain't nothing to it. All you gotta do like this. Look, he stood the log up. He flipped the log up on his knee. Flipped his knee up, flipped the log up on his shoulder. And then he put one on the other side. And I'm looking at him like he an alien. Mississippi boys know what I'm talking about. If y'all ain't from the country, what I'm talking about right now is probably gonna sound like it's some total fantasy. But them country boys down there, look, my cousin next door to my auntie, he go down to the feed store. He come back, he grabbing 100-pound bags of feed in each hand, walking them to the barn. I'm like, what is he doing? That's feeling like he carrying bodies. 100-pound feed bags. They toss them around like toys.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Right. That was our culture. That was our nature. That's who we are. We ain't none of these artificial appellations they ascribe to us. And the only reason why we use westernized names is because we invented that shit too. People didn't even know how to use what we call the surname in barter and trade. It all came, the communication across many tribes come from bartering and trading. Mm-hmm. The standard English dialect that we speak is a barter and trade language. Just like Swahili is the African barter and trade language. It's not an original language. It's an amalgamation of European languages mixed with about 2 or 3 African dialects. Mm-hmm. But the pattern that is using what's called Bantu Condorfian linguistic pattern. but it's using English, French, Portuguese, and Dutch words, Spanish words, Latin words, Greek words to expand the language. But the pattern is the pattern of the language of the Bantu people.
Hey, y'all, hit that like, hit that subscribe button, y'all. Hey, Roy, this is the last question, and it's like a 3-part question that I want to get off before we get into the clips. These are the opening questions just to get a little background history.
Yeah, we know.
Now, all right, so 1929, we got the Great Depression. Y'all already know about the secret meeting at Jekyll Island. You already know about the 1912, the sinking of the Titanic. Couple of them guys on the Titanic, essentially, they say, didn't agree with the central-owned bank. All right, so let's get into, Raw, this is what I want to get into. So we got the Great Depression, 1929. 1933 is a significant year in the architects of this debt. You got the Gold Standard Act. Then you got, which is Executive Order 6102. You got House Joint Resolution 192, which classifies all legal tender as this new federal note. Could you go in on that? The Great Depression, the Gold Standard, and the House Joint Resolution 192, pretty much taking us off the gold bag and silver bag instrument into a fiat type of a system, and pretty much them robbing us for our gold. Could you go on that, right?
Well, we know from the Creature from Jekyll Island is a book that tells you about the development of the Federal Reserve banking system. It wasn't the development because it was already developed in Europe before it came here.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, now remember, we finna be using monopoly money after the Great Depression.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Right? So now they had to figure out a way to artificially value that note. Right? This is why they had to take you off the gold standard, because the gold is going to force the equity to remain. Like, for instance, minimum wage now is like probably $12 an hour or something.
Mm-hmm. Well, I can look it up to tell you exactly. It varies. I think it varies in different states. It depends on, like, California's higher,
but they got a national minimum too.
Yeah,
but anyway, that's right. Whatever the minimum wage is, right? Mm-hmm. The gold would equitably, your labor, the gold, if it was backed by gold, the gold would make your equity come to you to balance out what you lost in your labor.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Right? That's why we didn't charge people for stuff. We freely gave to each other because, and with gratitude, because reciprocity cycles the energy. Gratitude broadens the bandwidth. And then when you're using gold as the medium for the exchange, gold is an equalizer. Silver is a balancer. For balancing the books, you need silver. To make an equitable exchange, you use gold. So they needed to get us off the gold standard because they wanted to take and hoard the gold away from us so that we can lose that equity in transaction that would come to us, but because they hold in the gold in reprisal for a claim, right? Now, they don't want us to have the gold. Now, here's the problem. There's two problems that's coming into place before the Great Depression. One, if they hoard the gold, we gonna hoard our gold. So there will be no transactions of gold. Right? Now, the second problem gonna come in is as soon as we realize what they doing, we not gonna just hold our gold, we gonna make a contingency for it with the mentality we had at that time. Right? Because like all of the hardest fighters was in the late 1800s and the early 1900s. And they used politics, they used religion as ways to figure out how to educate above the condition, but somebody came in amongst all of that called a charlatan. Most of the charlatans are well-trained con men called spies. In the acts of charlatry they doing is a operation in order to empower whoever the spy worked for, right? We call them agents now. Right? They used to have other names. They used to call them a mole. Because you got to be able to figure out how to take over. But they started going into business for themselves and trying to cut out the top guy and the bottom guy. Right? Because they figured that if they could hoard enough of the wealth, that they can be on the same foot as this is a salvage team, by the way. If they hoard enough of the wealth, that'll give them as much power on the land as to do the people that sent them. They businessmen too. But for people to get a better understanding, they got to go to the Iraqi war. The 2000, right after the World Trade Center, which was a gold heist.
Yeah, Saddam Hussein. Go ahead.
Right? When they went over there and bombed Iraq and Afghanistan, this is a company called Halliburton.
That's right.
Dick Cheney, who was the vice president, was on the board of Halliburton. Halliburton was the one that they gave the contracts to rebuild Iraq and Afghanistan to infinite millions and billions of dollars. That's illegal.
Hell yeah. Criminals.
That's the same thing that Joe Biden got caught doing with Ukraine. It's the exact same thing. He's telling them who America gonna pay to rebuild Ukraine and stop Russia.
Hit that like, hit that subscribe button, y'all.
Okay, now, what they doing is softening up the people.
It made you low, Rod. And making me echo.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah. Somebody called it in. I wish they had checked to make sure I'm not on the live first, but it's okay. But they were softening up the people. So when they make the switch, the thirst for the dollar comes from the lack of equity of the gold. Right? So now the dissenters was given a free cruise on the most fabulous ship ever made. Right? The greatest luxury cruise that anybody could ever take on the high seas. Right? That's telling you right there that it is a military maritime operation. Now, the infighting with them was they wanted to keep gold in general circulation, but they couldn't optimize control without taking the gold out of general circulation. Right? They looking at how the currency over here is going to affect the currency in Europe. Because if they continue to be backed by silver and gold in Europe, and you put us on the fiat standard, and we don't have anything to sustain the value of the currency, we're not backing it by nothing. The dollar not backed by gross domestic product. The dollar not backed by gross national product. That's the story of Jonathan May. That was another scheme of the government. Gross national product, gross domestic product. Jonathan May got 25 years in prison for doing that, for saying the blueprint. He wrote the blueprint for using it in barter and trade as future in the futures market. And because he was using various materials for trade, they charged him with some crime and sent him to jail. The story is in Behold a Pale Horse.
Treason.
So they locked him up and gave him 25 years, and then they turned around and created the market for the gross domestic product, gross national product, based off that. The Social Security was developed based off the Ponzi scheme. Right? So they already know these are all street hustle kind games. That's why a lot of New Yorkers be looking side-eyed at the traders on Wall Street, because they be like, man, don't you know that's a kind game? That's a hustle. And it's a hustle with very little honor in it, because the way that you do the hustle, you can't do a hustle on the land that's detrimental to masses of people. You can kind one person because they can recover, but you can't kind the whole country. These motherfuckers can kind the world.
Right? Not just the country, the world.
That's just a violation of law, because nobody can exercise free will under those conditions. We can't properly create humanity as humans in humanity under those conditions. It's stifling. But a lot of people don't get it, because they think it's business as usual, because all of this stuff has been normalized. Why do they even have a word called normalized? That means to take something that wasn't always normal and do it so much until it become normalized. What? They telling you, they tricking you in your face behind your back.
Yeah.
So when they made that word up, they knew that they was gonna be doing some nefarious stuff for a long time, and people was gonna forget that it was nefarious because they've been doing it a long time.
Right.
Just because somebody been doing something a long time or one way, that don't mean that's the only way it can be done, and that don't mean that it's the right thing being done. Sometimes person get away. At that song Johnny Cash, you can run on for a long time, run on for a long time. Sooner or later, gonna cut you down. Sooner or later, somebody's gonna figure out the kind, right? Unraveling this stuff to get people to understand the kind and how it works allows their mental to be free from it, so we can shake it off in the physical. But as long as don't nobody know what's going on, you can't make the change. You can't get them enough people in agreement that they want to see this need to change in order for all this to get better. Because they got us looking in so many different directions, trying to find out what we know. Some shit need to be changed. Everybody know that. There's nobody on the planet that don't know something got to change. You can ask anybody. You can ask a 5-year-old. The way the world going now, do anything got to change, or should we leave it like it is? They're like, oh no, something got to change. Everybody knows something got to change. But here go the problem. Don't nobody know who job it is to make the change, right? And if don't nobody know who job it is, they don't know who to hold accountable for to execute the change, right? And then none of them want the work that's required to develop their personal self to get to the point where they can effectuate the change, because the work is hard. You can't send a frontline soldier to strategize in the war room and he ain't never had a battle yet. He don't know about no damn war. But after he done seen a couple of his homies get popped in the dome, 2-3 of them in wheelchairs, he started saying something ain't right. We got to figure out something better, because this ain't working. So now you got to take a little time and think about your dead homies.
On the dead homies.
Right. Then, not to even mention the other homies, the ones that's godfathers buried alive, put in cryptic tombs and masqueraded as if they dead in the underworld, and we call them prisoners. Everybody in prison is a hostage. Even if they're guilty of what they was accused of, they still a hostage. Because the people that put them there are criminals pretending to be our government. And so they got to periodically take people hostage and wear their uniform so they'll look legitimate and do it for so long that we believe that's the way it's supposed to go. The tribes didn't do that. We didn't stockpile people like in warehouses. That's why we never had a prison before the 1800s. Google that shit. When was the first prison in America? We didn't have prisons over here. We didn't do that. If your crime was bad enough, we just go ahead and chop your head off and keep it moving. Right? We know what you did. You know what you did. Your people know what you did. My people know what you did. Them people over there know what you did. What shit if it's bad enough, just go and get him on up out of here. You ain't finna be a pariah on the collective. Mm-hmm. They'd rather keep the one that deserve to die alive and kill the one that don't. Mm-hmm. Make that make sense.
Yeah, make it. All right, Rod. Now we can get into some of these. I'm gonna say these other. I had one more question for you to break down on the executive order 11,110 that
you
Kennedy
know I never
passed.
Answered your question. I started off answering your question and went on a tirade about something entirely different.
Hey, look, but let the ancestors work, man. They be making you talk. I like when the answer when you do it.
Let's go over that question again. It was what led up to the Great Depression when J.D. Rockefeller's did the stocks called in all the loans, called in the markers. Mm-hmm. Okay, that triggered the crash. Mm-hmm. The Federal Reserve Act was already done in 1913.
Yeah, that's right.
So now they're going to have an opportunity to take us off the gold standard because of the crash. They didn't have an FDIC insurance backup. The FDIC insurance, federal something insurance company, but it's the squatters insurance. They didn't have squatters insurance. The fiat money has squatter insurance. And that's what the FDIC is. That's the squatters insurance in order to execute the fractional reserve banking, in order to bag up the first charter of Savannah, Georgia for the first bar, where they told them in the charter to use the legal system to take everything from us. They had to have a means to enforce that.
Well, they got mad about the ratification of the 13th Amendment. Go ahead, Rod.
Right. So then they turn around, they create the FDIC, the people that sent them over here, Lords of London, is holding the insurance policy, and they get their dividends off the birth certificate rollover. None of that stuff was possible until they crashed the market because the banks were still diversified. They weren't centralized. And this is how they got rid of the tribal banks. And that's what really, really was the death knell in our independence, when they centralized the banks and called in the gold. Because if you got caught with gold, you could have went to prison. That's robbery. Look, the privateers is the ones that's got to enforce that. They're going to put on a uniform and be called some form of law enforcement. And they come in to get the people that got stockpiles of gold. Who got stockpiles of gold in the tribal culture? Big Mama.
Right.
But what we do, you ain't going to get Big Mama gold. We're going to put it in this cave over here that y'all ain't going to find. By the time y'all find the war be over, national treasure.
Right.
Right. They look. So on the heels of that, they filed for bankruptcy. But we thinking they got the people thinking that they filing for bankruptcy on our behalf. We wasn't the ones bankrupt.
Right. Go ahead, Rod.
We was never the ones bankrupt. The corporation went bankrupt. Right? So in order for the corporation to survive, the corporation has to cash in on the bankruptcy, because remember, some people have bankruptcy insurance.
Right.
But once you go through the bankruptcy, then the insurance can pay out. America didn't finish going through the bankruptcy until 1999. So from 1933 to 1999, 66 years, they was in litigation of a bankruptcy. Now, during that 66-year stretch, notice the numbers now. From 1933 to 1999, 66 years, that's a 369 on the turnaround, no matter how you look at it.
Mm-hmm.
So whoever was dealing with the transfer of wealth had Masonic ties, because they knew the orders to put the when to rule on certain stuff in order to keep the energy in they ballpark.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So while they doing this, they are also working on the science and the humanities, the psychology, sociology, psychiatry, petrochemical medications, and pharmacia and pharmaceutical health.
Mm-hmm.
They phasing out all of our natural stuff that we was doing. All this stuff that they villainized and demonized Oregon. Right? They said that the people that used herbs to heal people was witches, and you shouldn't trust them.
Yep, hemp.
Yep, they made hemp illegal because it was most of our products, like our jeans, we didn't make that shit from cotton. Cotton was an afterthought to make the jeans softer, because the hemp lasts for 100 years. But the cotton only had a lifespan of about 30 as a pair of jeans. So we would use hemp. We use hemp in so many different products. The same as now, the possibility to use it is still there. The problem is they can't make as much money and they can't have as much control if we use what we use to live how we live. That means they couldn't change us.
Yeah, plan obsolescence. I mean, they got to create products that in order to keep the economy going, because it's a parasitic economy. They got to make sure you buy stuff every couple, like a battery. If you buy a car battery, the car batteries don't last no more than 2 or 3 years. They used to last 20, 30 years when they was putting the silver in it, right? Go ahead.
A light bulb.
Yeah.
It's recorded that they had a meeting about the light bulb to make the light bulb obsolete. One of the original light bulbs is still burning and ain't never been turned off in 100 years. Well, it's over 100 years now. All you got to do if you want to know about it is look up the 100-year light bulb. Right? So everything that they did, remember, everything used to be made solid, made in America, right?
Uh-huh.
Now that shit cheap as hell, made in Japan and Korea.
Right. Even the cars are thinner. The cars are thinner than crash a car now, it crushed like a can. Them old cars, man, they ain't gonna crush like that.
Okay, I go back to look at the engineering and go to YouTube and look up collapsible car frame. They designed the cars to crumble because they can't total them out if they just got a dent. Right? You had to be really, really flying back in the day to die in a car crash.
Wow, I'm telling you.
You can die in a car crash now going 10 miles an hour.
Mm-hmm.
And it'd be look like you just slammed into a wall flying out a jet.
You ain't lying, boy.
Right? They designed everything, even like the microwave was developed in the 50s, but it don't come out until the late 70s, early 80s, because they had to figure out a way where they can utilize it. You ever notice that? How do you know that the microwave is done cooking your food?
The bell, right?
You know this? You ever heard of B.F. Skinner? No, Ivan Pavlov.
Nuh-uh. I heard of Skinner. I heard of Skinner though.
Yeah, Ivan Pavlov was the one who used the bell to condition the dog to salivate on command. He used the bell, and so they used the microwave to condition us to want everything fast. Because when you go back to the original promotion of the microwave promoted to speed up and accelerate cooking time. Right? So they started catering to the mothers who cook the food to use the microwave. Right? But the bell on the microwave tells you that the food is done faster than it would have been in the oven. So now it's conditioning you over time to want everything fast. So now anything you got to work for take too long.
Crazy.
Right? So that's because they don't want you. Then that victim mentality of being a slave, right? The post-traumatic pseudo-slave syndrome is to create the victim mentality in the person that believe they came from slavery, right? As long as you believe all your existence was victimized, you're going to remain normalized as being a victim, and you're not going to have a proper response because you don't got no predator mentality. You got to have some predator mentality. Humans is the only animal on Earth that's born both predator and prey, and you can't tell the difference. Not only that, the humans only animal born both predator and prey on all other animals and they self. And you don't know which one is the predator or the prey out of the humans. Because the human that's prey go hunting, and the human that's the predator go hunting. Right? So when you're looking at the human animal, you're looking at something entirely different than the rest of the species, but it's what we call an accumulation of the apex feature of all other species, which makes you the god of all of it. All that is subservient to you, but all of that is part of you. Right? So now they got us looking at stuff in a certain way. So in 1933, they came out with the resolution 191, I think it was.
Resolution 192.
Right, where the government was supposed to, anything that we want, the tribes, that's who it was for. Anything that we wanted, we was just supposed to go sign for it.
Yeah, bills of exchange.
Right. And our signature was the tender.
Accepted for value. Accepted for value. Go ahead.
Right, because then we were still seeing the sovereigns. But they didn't never want us to know it. So they grouped, this is when I say they took us from being slaves on the family farm. They just opened up the whole country and put everybody in slavery together. And the best slaves get to be in charge of the rest of the slaves. Because that's bad. Leroy Brown, baddest man in the whole damn town.
I got to get some of these clips off, man. I got 100 round drum sitting right now. I'm ready to fire some of these. Let some of it go. Now, look, I'm going to start rolling them. I'm going to roll a couple until I get my question, till I come to my question now. But if you see something that you want to add, just tell me to stop it, then I'll stop it, okay?
All right.
All right, let's roll it. Let's roll that beautiful footage. And some of the stuff you already said, like you just said it naturally, like about the legal tender that's going to come up. Here we go right here.
Once a person has all the money that they can possibly use for the material pleasures of life, what is left? Sure, power. Absolutely. They are spending this money for power, ladies and gentlemen, to acquire power over you and me and our children. They're literally buying up the world with it. But I don't mean they're buying up the real estate or the hardware. They're buying up control over people. Technically, in sociological terms, they're buying control over the power centers, which means those groups and institutions through which people live and work and follow leadership and accept information. People are always associated in groups, and they work in groups, they move in groups. And these groups have heads of them, leaders. And this money has been going for many years to acquire influence, if not control, over the leaders of these power centers in society. So they can therefore indirectly influence and control you and me. Specifically, that means they have been spending this river of wealth very freely to buy control over politicians, political parties, television networks, cable networks, newspapers, magazines, publishers, wire services, motion picture studios, universities, labor unions, church organizations, trade associations, labor unions, tax-exempt foundations, multinational corporations, Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts, you name it. Make your own list. I guarantee you, if you have a large, influential organization which influences people, you will find that this river of wealth has been flowing partly into an attempt to acquire control over the leadership of these institutions and organizations. Especially though...
Walks. I like the discussion. Dr. Cohn, you said that really one of the primary goals of the Federal Reserve is not to make money. That's correct. You have inflation and employment, but there probably are other ways there are infinite amount of ways they could address those goals. You might also argue that a central bank that loses money might not be a cause for bragging about, or that it might not be part of your goals to have a central bank that loses money, that it might not be comforting or accentuate or help with the idea of stability within the economy. I'm going to throw out a question that I think I just want to hear the response, and it may be a little bit off the wall. What if we had a banking system that was just based on fraud and lack of fraud? So if I give you money and you decide to loan it, you have to pay me interest, and we have a contract. I'm not going to come get my money for 5 years and you're going to loan it. And that's all you would loan, and we didn't have any other rules. And the interesting thing is this, about 25% of money that's loaned out is checking account money, but you don't have a contract with me. And the reason why the whole system is always a house of cards and could go under is if everybody wants to get their checking account money, it's not enough money. So basically, we have a fraudulent system. Fractional reserve is a fraudulent system. But what if you did nothing else? And I'm not asking you to advocate for the policy. I just want to know, about 25% of the deposits are checking. You could still loan some of it out if you tell me I can't. I can only remove 90% of my checking, that you'll pay me a little bit of interest. But right now, you take my checking account money and basically don't pay me anything, and you get, the banks get to make money on it. What if we just had a system of banking based on fraud? We'll start with Dr. Michel.
Well, if I understand where you're going.
You can only loan out money that you have permission to loan out, and you got to make an agreement with me. If you're going to loan my money out and give it to somebody else, I'm going to forgo it. You got to pay me some money, and you're going to take a portion of it. But I didn't make that. When I put my money in my checking account, I want it all there, but it's not all there because you're loaning it out. So that is a fraud. The banks are committing a fraud every day by loaning out my checking account money.
Well, I mean, that is...
They're quietly trying to sweep this under the rug, but the internet holds receipts. Check this out.
That you do not really understand the concept of banking. All the banks are broke. Bank Santander, Deutsche Bank, Royal Bank of Scotland, they're all broke. And why are they broke? It isn't an act of God. It isn't some sort of tsunami. They're broke because we have a system called fractional reserve banking, which means that banks can lend money that they don't actually have. It's a criminal scandal, and it's been going on for too long. And most of the problem starts in politics and central banks, which are part of the same political system. We have counterfeiting, sometimes called quantitative easing, but counterfeiting by any other name. The artificial printing of money, which if any ordinary person did, they'd go to prison for a very long time. time. And yet governments and central banks do it all the time. Central banks repress the amount of interest that rates are, so we don't have the real cost of money. And yet we blame the real retail banks for manipulating LIBOR. The sheer effrontery of this is quite astonishing. It's central banks that manipulate interest rates, Commissioner. And plus, underneath all this, we talk loosely, in a rather cavalier fashion, do we not, about deposit guarantees. So when banks go broke through their own incompetence and chicanery, the taxpayer picks up the tab. It's theft from the taxpayer.
Banking, the greatest scam on earth. Thomas Jefferson said, I believe that banking institutions are more dangerous to our liberties than standing armies. If the American people ever allow private banks to control the issue of their currency, the banks will deprive the people of all property until their children wake up homeless on the continent their fathers conquered. Jefferson's warning is already here. 40 million Americans are living on food stamps. Millions more are now homeless, living in tents, all because of one institution, the Federal Reserve System. The Federal Reserve is a group of private bankers who have stolen the money creation process from the American people. Most people still believe the Fed is an agency of the government working in our best interests. It is not. There is no greater form of evil in the world today, so let's explore the banking scam. None of us have ever been taught anything about money. The reason is to prevent us from learning the truth that money is a trick and money is a trap. When solving any crime, there's a universal truth: follow the money, but with the banking scam, follow it backwards. Where does money come from? The world's money supply is always growing. Where does all the new money keep coming from? Money comes from privately controlled global banks like the Federal Reserve System. They create money every day, which increases the world's money supply. Because all banks are either owned or controlled by private bankers, the real question is, how do private bankers create new money? And the answer is they create it out of thin air. Bankers create money out of nothing. They make it up. It is a fiction. Wow. Godlike power to create something of value out of nothing. A stroke of a keyboard and money is created. In fact, only 3% of the world's money is even in the form of bills and coins, which means 97% of all money in the world is just numbers typed on a computer screen. This is part one of the banking scam. Money is created out of nothing. The second part of the scam is this phony money is issued as debt. What is debt exactly? Well, when you consider we work our whole lives to pay it off, you could say debt is slavery. But whose debt is this phony money? It's our debt, all of it. It's our debt when we use credit cards, we get student loans, borrow money for mortgages, all bank borrowing. And it's our debt, again, when the government borrows, which is each and every day. In today's world, money is debt, and debt is money, and don't forget the interest charges. Money equals debt, and debt equals slavery. Therefore, money equals slavery. Our monetary system is a carefully concealed system of slavery. Why? Because our government can create the same money for free with no interest charges, just like they used to, as the Founding Fathers designed it inside the United States Constitution for our protection.
So you were requesting, my name is Pete Bowie, I'm the financial center manager. You wanted us to order some cash for you?
You guys talk like it's a secret. Yes, I wanted to get money.
Yes.
100,000.
Okay. So we can have that available to you by Tuesday of next week.
Is there any way to have my money quicker? I don't have till Tuesday of next week.
There's not a way that we can help facilitate that any faster. The only other way that we can do this is we can get you a cashier's check for $100,000.
I need cash. I don't need a cashier's check.
Yeah,
see, this is the problem with the bank and financial industry is like, you guys have like access to all my money. Like right now, I want to be able to do something with my money, and I need it.
Okay. And we're not keeping it from you.
Yes, you are.
But in terms of cash, you're going to have us order that so that we have enough cash for all of our other clientele. So
you're supposed to be able to have cash for the people that have actual money in the bank. Like this is a scam.
Each one individual bank can't have.
But today is Thursday, right?
Yes.
Today is Thursday, so there should be time between now and tomorrow or Saturday where you guys can make calls to all these different branches out here to supply a banking customer. Because here's going to be the issue. If you don't give me my money, I'm going to close this account today. Because this is the second time I've come into the bank and try to get money, and you guys play this game with me. See, it's ridiculous.
Dollars into the bank. The bank sets aside 10% or $1,000 and then loans out the rest of your money. The way it works is, say another person comes into the bank and asks for a car loan of $9,000. At this moment, the bank loans out the $9,000 from your original deposit. It isn't there anymore. The borrower then pays the person selling the car, and they go deposit the money into another bank, which is part of the same central banking system. This $9,000 is treated as a new deposit, and the process continues. The money gets redeposited and reloaned until the initial deposit of $10,000 becomes $100,000. The banking system just created $90,000 by loaning out your money. This is possible because of what's referred to as fractional reserve lending.
Fractional reserve banking, otherwise known as the infinite money glitch. Here's how it works. When someone deposits $1,000 in the bank does not hold on to all of that money. Rather, the bank will just keep 10%, $100 as reserves, and then loan out the rest, or $900 to other people or companies, charging interest on the loan, making additional money for the bank. The lendee, or the person that took out the $900 loan, then goes on to spend that money. To simplify the scenario, we'll say that that person with a $900 loan immediately paid someone else that $900. At this point, when looking at this small financial system, there's a total of $1,900 in circulation, but the bank only has $100 in reserves. But here's where the endless money glitch occurs. The person that was paid the $900 then goes to deposit the $900 in the bank again, starting the process all over. The bank would keep 10% or $90 and then loan out the remaining $810. Then the person with the $810 loan would pay someone else, who then deposits that money in the bank, and the bank then keeps another 10%, loans out the rest, and the cycle continues. This cycle of monetary multiplication is called the monetary multiplier effect, or the infinite money glitch. In this example, $1,000 in initial capital can be transformed into $10,000 in the economy, all from nothing. $9,000 created out of thin air. Add a few zeros to those numbers and you can start to understand how much money in an economy can simply be created through fractional reserve banking. This infinite money glitch occurs because banks only have to retain a certain percentage of deposit due to liquidity requirements. The rest of the money they can go out and make money with through lending. In practice, the system of fractional reserves can create an infinite money glitch if lending and borrowing becomes irresponsible and pervasive.
That's how If it's in the bank, why don't you go down to the bank this afternoon and get 50 G's from it?
Is that hard?
Impossible.
Well, I've called
Not
them and
impossible.
they just said they need time.
Oh yeah, they need time because they're not carrying cash because they're fractionalized banking. But try to give them 50 grand.
What will they do?
Come back, man. Come back. We can't take this. We have people in line. I dropped $1 million in cash off to a bank one day at 7:30 in the morning into their door. And they're like, you don't have any security? No. And I'm getting on a plane, dude. You're taking this money. This came from you. It's coming back to you. They literally had to shut the bank down. They were so nervous. Giving the banks money is becoming problematic. And for sure taking it.
What do you think one day if the banks just don't respond?
Don't respond to
anything.
I think that's going to happen.
Well, that's where you wish you had some cash or some Bitcoin.
Hold on.
The gap between the very richest and the rest of us is getting bigger.
Why? Play a little bit of this, then we're going to ask
a common belief is that it's good for us all if a small group of people earn an enormous amount of money. The theory is that their wealth trickles down to the rest of us. But this is a myth. In reality, Money is sucked up from all of us into the pockets of a very small group of people. How does this happen? One reason is the way that money is created. Right now, almost all of the money in our economy is created by banks when they make loans. Now, most people assume that when banks make loans, they're lending out someone else's savings. But they're not. Instead, when somebody takes out a loan, banks create new money electronically by typing numbers into their account. 97% of all the money in our economy is created in this way, as people take out loans from banks. The more loans people take, the more debt there is, and the more money there is. The shocking fact is, if nobody went into debt, there would be almost no money in the economy. Our economy depends on the electronic money created by banks. But because the money is created when people borrow, someone, somewhere, has to pay interest on every pound created. In effect, we are renting the money we need to run our economy from the banks. This means that in the UK alone, together we pay the banks £192 million in interest every single day.
As Jefferson later put it, if the American people ever allow private banks to control the issue of their currency, first by inflation, then by deflation, the banks and the corporations which grow up around them will deprive the people of all property until...
Where does money come from? Your first answer is probably the...
That's not second. That's the next half of it. All right, Rod, the fractional reserve banking part. Based on my study in it, Rod, it seemed like Rod, you there?
Yep, I'm here.
Oh yeah, your camera's still off. Hey, based on my studying of the fractional reserve banking, it's pretty much leaning into what the Honorable Elijah Muhammad said, the reason why the dollar would eventually fall. It's inevitable. Because it creates every year the dollar decreases because of inflation, because of how they running this fractional reserve banking. Could you go in on that a little bit on the fractional reserve banking for the crowd?
So they already explained exactly what fractional reserve banking is pretty clearly, but they don't know the effect that it have on the value of the currency. So they have a person that's the chairman of the Federal Reserve. For years, it was Alan Greenspan. Then some lady took his place. He recently, not too long ago, died. But he used to come over every year, go to D.C. and announce what the interest rate was. The interest rate is adjusted based off currency collected for the fractional reserve balance. So over time, the inflation is the cutting off the top. No, the bottom. That's cutting off the bottom where the money is being kept. Okay, now they're using what's called a collateral attack on your finances because the other attack is coming from the tax collectors. Right? So they sucking the inflation is sucking the value or the purchasing power from the notes. But the taxation is encroaching on your take-home dollar from your labor. Right? Taxing is not supposed to be done in the manner that it is. Right? As a matter of fact, there's no need to tax anybody. If you use the wealth of the land to take care of the people on the land, you would need to use taxation to so you could pay for the people to pay you to take care of their responsible needs like city lighting, education. Education was supposed to be public. Education is always supposed to be community-based, tribal, in-house. But they interrupted it with their system of education that came out of their churches, which was part of the religious attack in order to influence the children. So they developed a school system. School system as it's set up is set up on the psychological model of Skinner boxes and Pavlovian response bells. That's so that when you get to work, they could use the same method, right? So if you work in the factory, when it's break time, you hear the bell go off or the whistle.
Yeah, at school too. The bell
Yeah.
go off at school.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And they tell you when it's time to change classes,
Mm-hmm.
right? That ain't how it's supposed to go. The kid might not want to do reading today. He might want to do math. So he's supposed to be allowed to sit in the math class until he's done with math for the day. Because he might not feel like doing math tomorrow and get every question wrong. Right? But they take them because that's teaching them how to be self-sufficient. Right? By the time you get in high school, you're supposed to know you got 5 classes and you got to get them in 5 hours each for the week. You might want to sit in 2 classes all day out of a couple of the days, and you got to break the rest of the days up to facilitate the rest of the classes. Right? You be to figure all that stuff out, and then you have your parents there helping you, but they want to keep the parents so busy at work that they can't help the child. When they get home, they too tired. Right? That's why they wanted both parents out of the house. Because now there's nobody in-house when the child come home from school. It's easier for them to be pursued by predators. They set their system up real good. But the fractional reserve banking is a way to steal the value from the money. Right? And then the taxation is a way to force you to give up a percentage of the money for having the money. It's rent on the dollar.
Right.
Right. And if you don't pay your rent, they're going to evict your ass from using the dollar by taking you to court saying you was tax evading.
That's crazy.
Now,
Bro. And
the
then
$1 million
voluntary
question,
compliance.
yeah, and the $1 million question is, what court is they taking you to? They can't take you to a real Article 3 judge and talking about tax evasion. They have to take you to an administrator that's part of the IRS conglomerate.
That's right. That's right, bro.
Administrative law judge. And the administrative law judges is masquerading as judges, and all they is high profile clerks. They not judges, but they giving rulings out like they the judge. That's why they ass going to jail. Right? For treason and fraud on the people. The whole bar association. A lot of them come in as dupes. That means they don't know what they're getting into. But if they've been there for 4-5 years, they know exactly what they into. And if they own their own firm, they got deep into the game. There is no excuse because they are the ones wrote it. That ignorance is no excuse of the law. They can't act like they didn't know. And then the conspiracy law apply because they made a concerted agreement, right? They committed an overt act to further the conspiracy. Right? They had a meeting of the minds when they have bar dinners and shit. That's the meeting of the minds. All of the elements of conspiracy, they textbook conspiracy. According to the law that they wrote. I didn't write that shit. Elder didn't write it. But it's in there. They the ones said if they do these 5 things, y'all can look up the elements of conspiracy. If they do these 5 things, that's a conspiracy. An illegal conspiracy. Right. So they also violating the color of law because it tell them right in there not to don robes as judges. Why would that even be in there? Right. They don't dress up on the highways as police under the pretense or under the color that you enforcing the law.
Yeah, impersonation.
United States 1983 violation. Right, with ties to your civil rights violations. They wrote it, and then they violated it. Remember, I told you earlier, they cheating the whole way.
Yeah, Martin Luther King said he to honor what they got down on paper. Shit, if this ain't the communists, Martin Luther King said, yeah, they did honor what they got down on. You said it on paper now, God damn it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
That's funny.
yeah, so they use that they use everything is to control us. Like the first dude was talking about. It sounded like he was giving almost the same speech that JFK gave about the conspiracy.
Right before they whacked him.
Yeah. They were saying the same shit. They see, once you control the institutions, you control the people that that represent the institution. Because every institution got a code of conduct. When you get ready to go to college, they're gonna give you a code of conduct. This is the rules for the dorms. This is the rule for the schoolhouse. Right? Then if you violate this, the teacher gonna write you a referral or the hall monitor and send you to the principal or the dean. And nobody don't want to get sent to the dean's office, right? We don't want to get sent to the principal office. That means we in trouble. I was born in trouble, motherfucker. Send me down there. I need to talk to him anyway, because the university ain't running like it's supposed to. In this case, University Earth. So they use every means of control. Finance is the most potent means of control because it's the medium of exchange to allow humans to support each other's lifestyle by having a medium of exchange to exchange goods and services. Right? That's the only reason why you need money. Money, you're not supposed to need to pay no light bill, water bill, gas bill, or city official salaries. None of that is supposed to come out of the tax dollar. Because we ain't supposed to have a tax dollar. The wealth of the land is mineral wealth. Right? The mineral wealth pay for your government. It's not supposed to be privatized, but the privateers came over here and started staking claims under squatters' rights and salvage rights. So they set up corporations that represented their interests in order for them to take the oil out the land, the coals out the land, take the silver out the land, the gold out the land. They send in they privateers all the way to as far as California, San Francisco, 49ers, the gold rush.
Right.
And they killing us along the way. They armed with stuff we hadn't seen yet. But when we got a hold of it, we was able to make stuff comparably much better. They came with muskets and we created revolvers. They had muzzle loaders. So we created rifles. Everything they did, we did it better than them. That's one of the problems that they didn't like about us.
Yeah.
Everything we did it better than them. Just like when the sisters of nature take charge and they be tearing stuff up, the most beautiful storms you ever see, that's how you know when the energy's shifting. Because they gonna do it better than there was before. More beautiful. You know them sisters gotta be extra sometime. They gotta put their adornments on and they pretty colors. So they want you to know that they involved. Sister called me right before the show. She say, the sky had 3 rainbows and on the other side it was gold. I said, it was gold. She said, no, she said yellow. I said, it was yellow. She said, yeah. I said, that's Oshun. That's a love come back. We need all the love we can get.
All right, let me roll some more clips. Like, so that first part was the easy part because it was pretty much about fractional reserve banking, and that's pretty much a big part of the scam, the banking scam, y'all. All right, let's go to this next part because this is going to get important, and it's going to tie into what Rod was saying about that we don't pay no supposed to be paying bills. Let's get into it.
As Jefferson later put it.
Where does money come from? Your first answer is probably, the government makes it. They have big machines, they print the notes, simple. And yes, that happens. There are places that physically print paper money and stamp coins. Real machines, real ink, real paper. But here's something that should stop you mid-sentence. All that physical cash, every note in every wallet, every coin in every pocket on earth, adds up to only about 3% of all the money in the world. 3%. So the other 97% of money, it has never been printed. You cannot hold it, you cannot touch it. It exists purely as numbers on a screen inside a computer somewhere. So
banks create money out of thin air. Okay? Money is just an illusion. So the example is, let's just say you're a depositor and you put $1 million into a bank. Okay? And the way the bank makes money is by lending to entrepreneurs, right? So you then...
The year is 1650, London. You have a bag of...
In the economy. But what exactly is that role? I'd like to reflect on that. Banks are being thought of as intermediaries, but this is not really what's happening. Banks...
What are they then?
The creators of the money supply.
So you're firmly of the view that banks create money out of thin air?
Yes, well, I produced the first empirical studies to prove that in the 5,000-year history of banking. Banks are thought of as deposit-taking institutions that lend money. The legal reality is banks don't take deposits and banks don't lend money. So what is a deposit? A deposit is not actually a deposit. It's not a bailment. It's not held in custody. At law, the word deposit is meaningless. The law courts and various judgments have made it very clear if you give your money to a bank, even though it's called a deposit, this money is simply a loan to the bank.
That's true. Yeah.
So there is no such thing as a deposit.
So you think it's put in
adequately
named then?
So banks borrow from the public. Okay, so that much we've established. What about lending?
Get your money back at the end of the year with a 10-9. We're going to get on to that.
No, they don't. Banks don't lend money. Banks, again, at law, it's very clear, they're in the business of purchasing securities. That's it. So you say, okay, don't confuse me with all that legalese. No. I want a loan. I want a loan. Yep. Fine. Here's the loan contract. Here's the offer letter, and you sign. At law, it's very clear. You have issued a security, namely a promissory note, and the bank is going to purchase that. That's what's happening.
Put it in layman's terms. What does that mean?
It means that what the bank is doing is very different from what it presents to the public that it's doing. How does this fit together? So you say, fine, the bank purchases my promissory note, but how do I get my money? I want, it's a loan, I want my money.
200 grand, right?
I don't care about the details, I want the money. The bank will say, well, you'll find it in your account with us. That would be technically correct. If they say, we'll transfer it to your account, that's wrong, because no money is transferred at all.
It's already in
from
the bank.
Anywhere inside the bank or outside the bank. Why? Because what we call a deposit is simply the bank's record of its debt to the public. Now, it also owes you money, and its record of the money it owes you is what you think you're getting as money, and that's all it is. And that is how the banks create the money supply. The money supply consists to 97% of bank deposits, and these are created out of nothing by banks when they lend, because they invent fictitious customer deposits. Why? They simply restate, slightly incorrectly in accounting terms, what is an accounts payable liability arising from the loan contract having purchased your promissory note as a customer deposit, but nobody has deposited any money.
So that's what people don't know as well. The Federal Reserve isn't a part of the American government. It's an individual entity that lives in America. So the six families who created America, the JP Morgans, the Citibanks, they tricked America. They were smart. They was dope. They went to America and said, listen, you focus on going to war. Let us focus on the money. We got you. Then they signed a deal. So for the rest of those families' lives, their family gets dividends from the profit that America makes.
Dang. How you got a whole country indebted to your family? That's wild.
It's gangster stuff. You get out of life not what you deserve, but what you can negotiate, brother.
That's a fact.
By the way, who owns
the Federal Reserve? Who are the main shareholders?
Right now, Donald Trump. But that's post-legislation.
That's decision maker. That's decision. I'm talking about.
Okay. There is an answer to this question. There is truly an answer to this question. And boy, I'll be waiting for the hate.
Donald Trump,
when I worked at the Dallas Federal Reserve, my email address ended in .org. There are banks that own the 12 district Federal Reserve banks are owned by banks in the sense that they get paid a dividend from what the district banks make, up 6%. And then whatever money the bank has.
Every time you go and pay your utilities, you are compounding the national debt. Do you realise that? I don't think you realise that. You think, you're kind of laughing at me, thinking, oh, this guy's a nut.
No, I'm not.
Yeah, you must understand, brother. You must understand. Every time you use that cash, that is blood money. Stop Federal Reserve notes. Has anyone got a note? Are you worried about going to jail? Are you worried about going to jail? I'm a live man. I don't go to jail. They can put Mr. Sando Bonacci in jail if they want to. See that? Read here, folks. Read here. Legal tender. This is not money. This is useless debt note, and it's blood money owned by the Rothschilds. One family. Friends, learn how to pay. Make promissory notes and discharge your debt with proper promissory notes. These are legal tender. This is fraud.
You see, because a bill of exchange is legal tender, you can take one like this, make it negotiable like this, and that bill that you get in the mail every month, well, that bill is a security. And you can exchange that bill with the bill of exchange. How does that work? Well, all bills have what's called a contract number or an account number. Why is that? Well, see, every bill is referenced by one of these 5 things. And see, most of your bills are things like this: payment intangibles, accounts, receivables, and chattel paper. Definitely. And what you may or may not know is that all of these are collateral and can be used and pledged as collateral. So in order to exchange this bill of exchange for the bill, the contract number or the account number should be presented and matched with your bill account number. Now, first, you might want to start with re-signing all your contracts, because all of your obligations stem from contracts. All of your bills come from a contract that you signed, whether or not you knew it was a contract, and you did not reserve your rights. Read up on UCC Article 2. It'll tell you about sales and also about contracts. Everything is through contracts, all of these debts. Of course, read up on UCC 3. It's all about negotiable instruments. And definitely read up on UCC Article 9, because now we're talking about secure transactions, because we know that they are turning these things into securities. And if you don't know where to start reading at, always start with the definition in every chapter. Now, why would you get an audit on your bills? Why? Because we talked about it. They make these things into securities. So look at this, UCC 9, because it has to deal with secure transaction. A seller retains no interest. A debtor that has sold an account, shadow paper, payment intangibles, or promissory note does not retain a legal or equitable interest in the collateral sold. You have to protect your equitable interest. This is security. It's being sold. They sold your debt, and then they still are getting an equitable interest off of it. Did you sell the account? No.
So if you say no to this, and I say no problem, and I put it back in my pocket, in law, I just paid you $20, even though you didn't accept it. Because UCC 3-603 subsection B states that if you attempt a payment, so the word tender is also another interesting word. The word tender means to essentially offer without condition. That's what the word tender means. If I were to extend my arm and unconditionally say, this bottle cap is now yours. Now what happens is now it's your responsibility to accept that bottle cap, right? So the transaction isn't completed until you accept it. The definition of acceptance when it comes to negotiable instruments and finances is delivery.
So if I accept delivery on it,
if you accept delivery, then that's now a completed transaction, right? Now, let's say I offer you this negotiable instrument and you say, no, I don't accept Federal Reserve notes. Now, on the statutory side, you actually can't do that. That's the funny part. So if you say no to this, and I say no problem, and I put it back in my pocket, in law, I just paid you $20, even though you didn't accept it. So when you send in a promissory note to pay off a mortgage, they're going to say, we don't accept that kind of payment, which is literally the most illegal and insane thing. You could start putting people in prison for 25 years left and right. The funny thing about it is, as soon as you get that letter back, it says, we don't accept this kind of payment. That's all you need. You just got all the evidence that you need. It's now paid off. Because they can't, if UCC 3-603 subsection B states that if you deny me attempting to perform on the contract, then whatever amount that I attempted to give you in order to perform on that contract discharges off of the debt. So if I let's say I try to give you a promissory note for $287,000.
Yeah.
If you reject that as a payment we don't accept, that's all the evidence I need in court to now $287,000 must come off of my bill.
And why is that?
Because you can write your own promissory notes. Hold on, we're finna get into it.
Have you ever wondered what counts as legal tender in the United States and why it matters? Title 31 USC, Par 5103 is the federal statute that defines what must be accepted as payment for debts, taxes, and public charges. Let's break it down. Title 31 USC, Par 5103 states that United States coins and currency, including Federal Reserve notes and notes issued by national banks, are legal tender for all debts, public charges, taxes, and dues. This means that if you owe money, the law defines what you can use to pay it. Legal tender is the foundation of how debts are settled in the U.S., ensuring payments are fair and consistent. The first key point is that Federal Reserve notes, or paper money, are considered legal tender. Creditors are legally obligated to accept them as payment unless there's a prior agreement to use another method. This applies to both public debts, like taxes, and private debts, such as loans. If you offer to pay in cash or coins, your creditor generally cannot refuse it as a valid form of payment unless an alternative method was agreed upon in advance. This brings us to private agreements. Parties can agree to alternative payment methods in contracts such as checks, electronic payments, or even barter. As long as the agreement is lawful and both parties consent, these methods can override the default use of legal tender. Understanding Title 31 USC, Par 5103 is crucial. It clarifies what forms of payment can discharge debts and how to structure agreements for alternative payment terms. This is especially important when used in combination with the Uniform Commercial Code, which governs private financial agreements. In conclusion, Title 31 USC, Paragraph 5103 ensures that U.S. currency and coins are valid for all debts, but it also allows flexibility.
Remember how I told you that all your bills are prepaid? Well, now I'm going to give you the proof in the law. So remember, most of your paper bills, they have a payment coupon attached to them. If there is a perforated edge attached to it, that is a remittance transfer. That is the legal name for it. Look up 15 U.S. Code 16930-1 on remittance transfers. Also references Public Law 106-229, so you know that it's already been coded for us. So any bill that you get, any statement that you get that has a perforated edge and a payment coupon attached to it, it is a remittance transfer, and this is what you use to cover the cost of the bill, and you can send that back to them. It is a remittance transfer, and they would be in violation of that code if they don't accept it.
Yes, sir. So I told y'all before, there's an act for everything, literally. But what I want to talk about in this video is this legal tender that you guys call money. This is not money. It's legal tender. That's good for public and private debts. With the Legal Tender Act of 1862, Congress revolutionized the U.S. monetary system by making paper notes legal tender and creating a national currency for the first time. Have you ever heard somebody say the rich continue to get richer while the poor continue to get poorer? Well, that's what the banking cartel wanted, and that's exactly what they got. Look at this guy right here, labeled as the banking system. If we was talking biblical terms, what he's doing is gluttony. He's overfilling himself. And then look at the government. They getting a part of the plate too. Now look at you. Oh, look at us. The people is really left to starve. Listen to this quote. It is well enough that people of the nation do not understand our banking and monetary system, for if they did, I believe there would be a revolution before tomorrow morning. As people, it's our duty to speak about certain topics that most people might not want to speak about in order to get the truth out to the people. And then it's up to the people to take that information and use that information to change their situation and then reach their arm out to help somebody else do the same. These people will change a law in a second to keep you enslaved. But my question is, what are you willing to do to be free? Follow me for more.
Peace and blessings. Let's take a look at 31 U.S.C. 5103, legal tender. United States coins and currency, including Federal Reserve notes and circulating notes of Federal Reserve banks and national banks, are legal tender for all debts, public charges, taxes, and dues. Foreign gold or silver coins are not legal tender for debts. And now we're going to look at the Legal Tender Act of 1862. And we go down here and say, and such notes herein authorized shall be receivable in payment of all taxes, internal duties, excises, debts, and demands of every kind due to the United States, except duties on imports, and of all claims and demands against the United States of every kind whatsoever, except for interest upon bonds and notes, which shall be paid in coin, and shall also be lawful money and legal tender. That means you can only
UCC Paragraph 3-603 is a powerful tool for anyone dealing with creditors. When you tender payment, your obligation is discharged to the extent of the amount you offered, even if the creditor rejects it. Imagine you owe $5,000 and you tender $3,000. Your obligation is now reduced by that $3,000, regardless of the creditor's response. To do this correctly, make sure you use a lawful payment method, cash, check, or a negotiable instrument. And don't forget to document everything. Use certified mail or another method that proves you delivered the payment. Keep copies of your payment and any correspondence.
This is the United States Constitution, and according to the Constitution, this silver coin is a real U.S. dollar. The U.S. dollar has always been defined as silver, which is why the dollar symbol is an S with a line through it. This piece of paper is a silver certificate, which means it represents one of these. In the past, you could bring this to the bank and the bank would pay the bearer on demand $1 in silver. This is a Federal Reserve note. A note is different than a certificate because a certificate actually represents a piece of silver, whereas a note is just a fancy banker's word for IOU. This is printed by the Federal Reserve Bank, which is not federal and has no reserves. It is a privately owned bank with stockholders that receive a guaranteed 6% dividend. This is legalized counterfeit designed to look like the real thing. So know the difference between an actual U.S. dollar and legalized counterfeit.
It receives 6% off $1 trillion a month. You do the math on that shit.
Difference between actual currency and fiat currency is that when you have real currency, it's backed by money. In the United States, legally, money was gold or silver. But instead of carrying around your gold, you could carry around cash.
Yeah, they're gonna be the next part if we get to it. Hey, Raw, all right. So Raw, my question from here is the legal tendency, and it's a hold on, let me play this affidavit tape because this is a part of how to do this. I'm gonna do a whole AI breakdown on the accepted for full value, but let me play this this clip right here to go along with.
Do you think that's accurate? I do. If you just
that ain't it. Hold on, it is right here. It should be right. Accepted for full value. I think it's right here.
So if you're not familiar with,
I know a lot of people might not know what a BOE is. So it's a bill of.
Bill Part 2! Let's get it! Look guys, this is the proof that we millionaires and this shit's real. Where a person signs a bill as a drawer, endorser, or acceptor. You, because you gotta accept the credits that you got from the bill. And adds words to his signature, indicating that he has signed on behalf of a principal, aka all cap name, a social, and all that. Or in a representative character, that's B's eyes, boss, because we represent that fucking name. That name is not fucking us. He is personally not liable thereon, but in mere addition to his signature of words describing him as agent, or filling the representative character, aka you just pulling up as your position, don't exempt him from personal liability. It's just saying that if you're doing this right, as the agent as we are, that don't mean that you still can't get fucked up. Like how we're getting fucked up now by them charging us all them unnecessary fees and all the other dumb shit that we're not supposed to be even tolerating at all. But continuing. Rules for determining capacity. So this is to differentiate you, the all caps. In determining whether a signature on a bill is that of the principal, all caps name, they telling your ass again. This is proof of it. This is the Cornell law. It says in finance, right? A principal can also refer to the corpus of a trust, what the says to KV trust or what our socials are. That's the fucking proof for your ass if you don't think I'm fucking lying. Let's keep going.
A video to try and explain a little bit about bills of exchange in conjunction with the Consumer Credit Act when it comes to utility bills. Now, a brief little bit of history is that in the 1800s, this country became bankrupt. It had no economy, there was no wealth, there was nothing in it. So they had to put the debts onto something that would gain credit and would be able to do such. So they put the debts onto...
A properly executed affidavit is law until it is rebutted by another affidavit. Suppose you send your mortgage lender an affidavit that says you just discovered that the loan documents they asked you to sign have misrepresentations, lack of disclosure, or fraud. If you are wrong, you may go to jail for perjury. If you're right, you may get the deed to your house free and clear. An affidavit is a powerful thing. The author of an affidavit can take all the marbles. He can make the rules. In my affidavit, I can say, you hereby agree to pay me $50 a month unless you rebut this affidavit within 30 days. If you make the mistake of tossing that affidavit into your inbox and forgetting about it, 30 days later, you are a slave to me. Under the law, $50 per month of your earnings belongs to me. That's the point of those cryptic notices from your credit card company. These are the new terms of your credit card. The law says that you agree and accept the presented terms unless you respond and refuse to accept. If you respond, you can change those rules all you want. All you have to do is respond. That notice they sent you is not enforcement of their rules. That is an opportunity for you to agree with their rules by remaining silent. Send a notice back saying, you may not charge me any late fees, and I will not pay more than 5% interest on my credit card charges, and those are the terms you must accept if you wish to have me as a credit card customer. If the credit card company does not rebut or cancel your card within your time limit, you are legally entitled to the terms you offer. Your announcements and demands are just as valid as theirs. If your notice is in the form of an affidavit, no judge, court, or officer may deny your claim, and the credit card company may not.
So, yeah. So that's about the affidavit, and you can write a bill of exchange in the affidavit, and you can strike up that bill a certain way. We're gonna be doing a whole class on that to do the accept it for full value, and I got more clips on that. But this is my thing. It seemed like Raw. Our sovereignty is based on what we know. Like we've been perishing because we don't know shit. We ain't know all this shit. So if you know something, you can rebuttal that. You can get them what you know dictates your sovereignty. It ain't got nothing to do with paperwork, none of it. It's just really dealing with what I know to defend myself. If you don't know how to defend yourself in this system, you pretty much get tore apart. So yeah, could you go in first on the bill of exchange? Not the bill of exchange, accepted for value and how we aren't really supposed to be paying. No, you already pretty much said it already earlier in the tape about how we aren't supposed to be paying no bills because we don't got no money. We legally don't got no real money.
Yeah, that's a Senate bill, SB 192. You say?
Yeah, House Resolution 192. Yeah.
Okay, now here's the thing. What you just seen was the contract being navigated. Right. Now remember, it's one thing to be under the contract, it's another thing to know how to navigate the contract. When people start discovering how to navigate the contracts, the government started accusing them of fraud. Why? When you navigating the contract is predicated up on the original fraud. when you become a willful party to the fraud, you become guilty participant in the fraud. So the same people that lured you into fraud are going to prosecute you for committing fraud, for using the fraud that they created.
God damn.
Now, that's the way you were supposed to navigate the contract, because that's the way that they gave us out. But they didn't honor it. They cheated in the game. And that's why the paperwork was a paper trap. Everything tied to the UCC is tied to the white man's burden doctrine of discovery. The Uniform Commercial Code was to make the business dealings between those royal corporations equitable wherever they colonized it, among themselves, not the people they colonizing, not the lands they colonizing. Right? So all that stuff finna be out the window in short order anyway, because the contract is up. Since the contract is up, none of that stuff is enforceable. This is why they got to arrest all the administrative law judge, because those were administrative acts of fraud. Right? So they use the Chevron doctrine to take their power from them first, which stopped the administrators from practicing law as a professional. Now you can't arbitrarily practice law because you got a law degree. Right? So the administrative judge and the Article 3 judge is not the same. And a lot of administrators hold appellate positions in the courts, but they're not real judges. They administrators, they clerks. But they put on the robe like they the judge to deceive the people. That's fraud. They know they operating in fraud. And the reason why you know is because they never tell you about the irreconcilable conflict of interest every time you step into the courtroom. That's the prosecutor, a bar member, your defense attorney, a bar member, the judge, a bar member, and most of the clerks is bar members. So whatever the dealings are taking place in the court, it's a matter that should be dealt with among bar members, and you ain't got nothing to do with it.
Right.
It's a barrister's, the barristers are the law barons of Europe. They work for the land barons. They split into departments. The land baron need to be able to govern his land. So he have the law baron write the rules by which the land is governed. They call it legislation over here. They're not trying to solve community problems. They're trying to maximize the theft that they are actively participating in. So they profits is to keep us blind to what they doing. So earlier you was mentioning that it seemed like that a lot of us just suffer because we don't know. We didn't know. We didn't know most of us didn't know they was cheating. Most of us didn't know we was playing this war game of educate yourself above the condition. We had to figure it out.
Pull up by your bootstraps.
And they stole our boots.
Damn, these motherfuckers. Hey, bro, you know what I think? When I was studying this shit today and really all week, man, and studying how they did Chavez actually, they couldn't get with him. His people came out and made them bring him back. Chavez, they came out to Chavez. His people brought Hugo, right? But this is what I see, man. It's like this. Say you got a bully, right? And he taking everybody lunch money every day. He taking everybody lunch money. But the one guy like Saddam Hussein, Chavez, the list of the list of the niggas they put out of business. He say, man, you can't take. I'm tired of you taking my lunch money. You can't have my lunch money no more, right? The one guy, right? And then the bully who's taking everybody lunch money, he singles that one guy that don't want his lunch money taken no more and say terrorists. He's got weapons of mass destruction. You know, he's a terrorist. He won't let me take his lunch money, man. He's a terrorist. You know what I'm saying? So he gets singled out. And if his people don't come out to bag him, and usually in most cases they did, Chavez people did, he end up justifying to the rest of them people. He normalized bullying and then taking everybody, like you said, they normalized shit, right? So he normalized everybody's getting their money took. So why are you complaining? Why are you complaining about getting your goddamn lunch money took when everybody's getting their lunch money took?
You
right?
gave me, but you gave me a whole flashback, Elder.
Go ahead.
You gave me a whole flashback.
Go ahead, Rod.
Look, I was going to school to Grand Rapids at this school called Straight Elementary.
Mm-hmm.
And I used to sit out there and watch the bully pick on all the kids every day. I know sooner or later he gonna get to me. And finally my day came. He walked up to me and asked me for my milk and my cookie. He put my cookie and my milk on the bench, stood up, punched him right in his motherfucking nose.
Yeah, get some. Nigga, get some.
He went and told the teacher on me.
Damn. Yeah, you a terrorist, right? You a terrorist because you didn't want your cookie and your milk taken like everybody else. Everybody else got their cookie and milk took. Why you gonna want your cookie and milk took? You a terrorist. So he gonna go tell on you. That's the craziest shit, boy.
Look, as I got older.
Mm-hmm.
As I got older, I started seeing the bully going around picking on our kids in higher grades. I'd be like, well, ain't no sense of waiting for him to come. I might as well go and stop him now.
Yeah.
That's where I'm at. That's what this work that I'm doing now. Stopping the bully for everybody. I ain't gonna wait for him to come back to me.
Right. Taking everybody lunch money, man. If you complain, you a terrorist. You a criminal.
Look,
and you
Saddam Hussein.
Mm-hmm.
He is a special case. Because he was a CIA asset.
That's right. That's right.
And they the ones put him in power.
That's
and
right.
double-crossed him. They double-crossed him with the Iran-Contra and the hostages in Iran when they started selling Iran weapons to fight Saddam, and Saddam was America's ally.
Right.
They put him in power. They also put in power a guy named Osama bin Laden.
That's right.
Osama bin Laden was a CIA asset that the Bushes was trading oil with his family. And he left from home and went to Afghanistan to join with what was called back then the Mujahideen, who was at the time fighting Russia. Russia was trying to get control of a little small country north of Afghanistan called Uzbekistan. Uzbekistan, they had just discovered a massive oil supply. Afghanistan was trying to stop Russia from getting the oil. And America was bankrolling and giving the army, the military supplies to the Mujahideen to stop the KGB or the Russian army from coming across the mountains into Afghanistan.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so when they told us that Osama bin Laden had his people flying some planes into some buildings, that's the same as saying the CIA had some people flying some planes in the buildings.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's who he worked for.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And George, he probably was one of them boys that George Bush had, because George Bush used to get a bunch of young cadet recruits and orphans that was in what they call them schools, reform schools from around the world, and he would raise them up under him, but he was using them for sex toys.
Damn, bro.
They call him his mercenary F-boys. That's what they call him in the secret societies. They know what he was doing.
Yeah, Arizona Wild. No, it was Captain O'Brien that said something about that. They used to do it on the military. They got these secret military bases where they was molesting the kids, and she was one of the little kids that were being molested there.
Yeah, he had a bunch of boys though. He look, one of the dudes that was he was on the plane with Bush. He had gave a story to a guy that was doing the George Bush investigation.
Mm-hmm.
He told the story that he was on the plane and George Bush was talking to some other old creepy white guy, and he was showing him the control he had over his soldiers. And he called one of the soldiers over there. He told him, open that door. He opened the door. He told him, now jump out. He had no parachute, and he jumped. You know,
Damn.
so they heavy into MK Ultra mind control results, right? They just did an MK Ultra expose that's supposed to be in DC at some kind of Senate hearing or something, but we already know ain't nobody really there. So I don't know if it was actors, AI generated, but they talked about Charles Manson being an MK Ultra asset, and they talked about Jim Jones being, because they got a picture. The picture, the same guy that taught Charles Manson taught Joseph Senku. Joseph Senku was Symbionese Liberation Army, right? And then he's also the teacher. He was teaching them in San Quentin. And they came out of his program. He was their handler. And then he was best friends with Jim Jones. So he was giving Jim Jones mind control secrets to control his church. Right? And they got one picture with the dude in it, but it don't have a name on it. Where his spot at? Like, they named 3 people, it's 4 people in the picture. They named the 3 people, but they don't name the 4th, which was him. He was the one who taught it to Manson and to Joseph Senku and to Jim Jones. Right? So we know what they was doing with the MK Ultra program, and we know they was creating what they call hypno assassins or Manchurian candidates. We know that because in the MK Ultra, the hypnotist, Dr. Esther Brooks was his name, taught them how to have a person do something, have no memory of ever doing it. And no ability to stop themselves from performing the function based off hypnotic induction. He can hypnotize you, give you a message to deliver when you meet a certain person, right? And then he'll tell you, but in the meantime, you're not going to remember this message. And after you deliver the message, you will forget this message forever. So now he done sent you a mule, you carrying a hot message that you don't know you carrying. Then you meet the person he told you was going to meet. He got a code word he going to give you. The code word going to immediately put you in a hypnotic trance to reveal what you was given. Right? So now they don't need homing pigeons no more. Because they use homing them now.
Damn. And they using they had figured that out before the TV came out.
Yeah. Look, and these programs produced the McDonald's shooters of the 80s. And the post office shooters. Remember the term going postal?
Yeah.
Yeah. All of those people, they went from there. That didn't get the response they was looking for from the general public, because they was trying to make the public demand we get rid of all guns. We're not supposed to get rid of our guns. Not because of each other, because the government is the tyrant. It tell you that in the Constitution, Declaration of Independence.
Mm-hmm.
You got to watch the government. The government is the enemy. Government always been the enemy because they don't belong here. That's not our government.
Yep. Strong occupation only. Mm-hmm.
Right. Now, when we understand that it's not our government, that the problem is the uniform system. Everybody wear a uniform that make them look and give the appearance of legitimacy. And that's the code of the commercial transaction. Uniform commercial code.
I should have covered everything.
Yeah, that's all military operations.
Hey, Roy, I got a question for you before we close out in a minute. What do you think the solution is for the money problem? Because we got the fractional reserve banking going. They running that fraud. I mean, and the money is really not real legal tendency. I mean, Arisha, shout out to my brother Arisha. He advocate buying silver and metals and other natural metals, right, to as a savings, as a like a long-term savings, like your own savings account, storing up metals. Because the executive order 6102 not in that no more. You can hoard a gold now, right? Or is that still a play on the books? But what is your solution to the our money problem in this being in this perpetuated state of debt?
Okay, first off, we didn't ever have to put the banks on notice tonight. I did that 7 years ago.
Right.
And when I put them on notice, they began to systematically shut them down. Right. And I gave them what was called the $1 billion buyback program. Right. And that was how to get control and interest of our resources. We didn't have to have 100% of it. We just needed to control an interest. Right. 51% is control and interest if you got 2 people involved. But when you got more than that, sometimes you can have control and interest with 10% of the stock, or 40% or 30%. Again, you control an interest because there's other interests that got less stock than you. Right. So once you get control and interest, you got some say at what goes on at the board table. Right. So it was the billion. I think Facebook since deleted it, but it might be on somebody YouTube. It was called the $1 billion, the $1 trillion buyback program. And then I was telling them how to systematically gain control and interest of all aspects of everything until we in control of everything. It was so the banks had to be shut down because they was committing fraud. I did another notice with you when I was explaining the bank fraud. Right? We went over the fractional reserve bank. So they'd already been on notice. That being said, at 11:59 tonight, this is July the 3rd, the Federal Reserve fiat currency is dead. At 12 o'clock midnight tonight, the gold back notes, the gold back currency activates. What we call it, it's the interim currency, because 98.9 out of 100, the matriarchy going to change the appearance of the notes. They ain't gonna let Trump stay on there, but because he's the one that's the face of the work. He ain't the one that's going in them tunnels getting them babies out, but he's the one that represents the face of the people to the public that's going in them tunnels getting them babies out. Right? He ain't the one putting handcuffs on them dirty players in DC and Hollywood and New York that we don't even see. We still think that most of these people real, and they CGI, deep fake, skin masks, and we didn't show them that they've been doing it, but they still don't believe it because on TV they look just like they always did to them. But some of us can see the differences. Right? So he the face of the cleanup, so he got to have some kind of recognition for his work. And what the work being represented that he's being buck dance and crack about. Right? So now when the new currency come online, that's the death of the Federal Reserve. The Federal Reserve is not allowed to print gold-backed currency. Only the U.S. Treasury.
That's right.
So that would take all of the power away from the corporate structure and the corporate apparatus, and it gives the power to the United States Treasury on behalf of the people. The Treasury don't belong to the government. It belongs to the collective of the tribes of the land. That's why the dollar bill had to have a contract, had to be on the face of the dollar bill between the Federal Reserve and the U.S. Treasury. Look at your dollar bill. If y'all think I'm joking, pull out the dollar bill. On the front of the dollar bill, on one side, you're going to see the Federal Reserve. And the other side, you're going to see the U.S. Treasury. And then ask yourself, what's the difference in the two? That's the contract. The Moore sister, Renita Hari Bael, she the one who showed you the contract and the key to America. Right? And I mean, she gave one hell of a lecture. She broke that shit all the way down with the facts. Right? So a lot of people, don't care for or whatever, but you can't take that performance right there, whatever she do after that, she got to be eligible for some kind of redemption for any mistakes she made. Because we needed that information. That information was critical and valuable to all of us. I ain't had a chance to talk to her, which I would have liked to, but me looking for her, I ran into some hostilities about her. So I just left it alone because I don't want to be in nobody else Trump controversial in-house stuff. That's their house to clean up. If Angel Bay ain't got, if something don't need to be spoke up for Angel Bay, then I don't got to say nothing about it.
Man, you know something, Rod? That the transit, now you just made me think that damn, that's the easiest way to fix the shit, right? Instead of just crashing the dollar all at once, right? We start printing our own gold back money and just start replacing take the other shit out of circulation, like replace dollar for dollar or whatever out of the circulation. Right? You see, because it's only really 3% of the money is really printed. So that 3% of the money that's printed, we just start taking it out of circulation and replacing it with the new currency.
The fractional reserve banking, 97% of the money is thin air.
Right.
It don't exist. Right. Crazy. So, but here's the thing: they got a law in the books about counterfeit. Right. Yeah. If you draw up your own redemption notes, they'll charge you with counterfeiting. But guess what? You got a what you call viable defense.
The bank,
the Federal Reserve is a fictitious entity. You a real living, breathing person. Which one of y'all got more of a right to give a promissory note?
Right.
Right? Because you leveraging a law. Good thing that shit over with.
Yeah. Good thing it's over with. That's a fucking vicious cycle, man. It's a vicious shit.
Every time somebody figure out a way to win, they kill them.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah, they didn't want nobody.
Get them to join on with us at the bottom.
Yeah.
If y'all want to join on with us, hey, Jackal, sick 'em, get them. Send the Jackals in on them.
You ever run across a book called Cracking the Code? UCC Redemption Manual.
Oh yeah, you know what? I got that book, Raw, in the garage. I got it.
Yeah.
I ain't never like. I'll probably open it up and look through it, but I got it. I ain't had a chance to go through it yet. I got it.
The way that he present the information that helps you to grasp it real well is he used the Wizard of Oz.
I got it's like 4 or 5 different volumes. I got all the volumes. It's like different volumes to that. I got all the volumes.
They updates. They revised editions.
Yeah.
I think he stopped at 4.
Yeah, I got all 4 copies. It's the one called like the Scrawl Man. It's another one, the UCC one. It's yeah. Matter of fact, I'm gonna go get when I do the next class. I'm gonna go find those books because I need to. It's some stuff that I need to do in those books that for this AI I'm trying to work on. Yeah.
Look, hey, I know what cracking the code is.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. You can ask for a summary of the book.
That's it. That's what I'm gonna do.
Right. But that the reason why I brought it up is because they use something that's relatable to explain the concept for people to understand it and how it worked. They use the Wizard of Oz. Right. And by using the Wizard of Oz, it allows you to make the connections with the legal rhetoric where it makes sense.
Mm-hmm. The sliver slippers. I did a whole breakdown on that Wizard of Oz. I already did the AI breakdown on the Wizard of Oz, and I did two old classes with slides, breaking down the 10-man, the tax ID number, the you know what I'm saying, all it, yeah.
Look, that's what made me and my bunkie. I had a bunkie. He was Jason Bourne, special ops. Jason, one of them Jason Bourne dudes. Anyway, I had left the book on the bed and went to go play basketball, lift weights. I come back in, he reading the book, he gone. So he had asked me 1,000,001 questions, so I had to answer all his questions, getting caught up on what he read. Right, and then me and him clicked after that. He started telling me about military training, and we went over like military strategy. Man, we hit it off pretty cool. Yeah. But he don't look like he a bust a grape. He will F you up.
Yeah, that's usually how it be. I'm telling you, man.
Yeah. He said they picked him because he looked unassuming. Like if you see him in a foreign country, he wouldn't be intimidating or nothing.
Yeah. That's interesting. That is. Hey, y'all. Everybody hit that like, hit that subscribe button right now if you're new to the channel. Everybody send Rod $25 right now, man. We got 1,200 people on. Somebody send him $100, man. Put the chief in the game till the next time we come on, man. I know it's a whole bunch of high rollers out there. Somebody send him $100, a blue note. Yes, and if you can't do that, send him $5, man. It's all good. Send him $1. Shit. We gotta keep the chief on the land, man. We gotta take care of the chiefs, man. What else I wanted to say, bro? Oh yeah, bro. This is my another question about the 4th of July. Could you go in on that? Because the 4th of July seemed like to me it was the boys that trying to get off of King George out their booty, man. Yeah, King George was in the these dirty Moors. They brought these convict Caucasians over here for 60 years. They robbed them on these tobacco farms. They got pissed off. 1773. They started the American Revolution to get King George out of their booty, which they never eventually really did. King George stayed in their booty. Go ahead. Go ahead.
I'm gonna show you something. Tell me what year Georgia was founded.
Was it 17?
Look it up.
All right, let me look it up real quick. So I used to know this off the dome. I'm gonna look at it right now. All right. And they said the penal colonies in Georgia. That's the first when first prisoners came. We didn't even have prisons over here. It was the first penal colony with convicts. It says when. He says when. What's the question, Rod?
When was Georgia founded? They might say established.
It's gonna be founded probably. Yeah, okay. It was founded in 1772. It says Georgia was established as a British colony in 1732 when King George II granted the charter to James Arclifer. Is that his name? I'm butchering his last name. James. The first permanent settlement was officially founded on February 12, 1773.
Okay, now the reason why I brought that up is the reason why Georgia was named after King George. The English called him over here. The English called him over here out of DC. And they asked him to put a buffer zone because the tribes that was coming from the west into the Gullah Wars was overwhelming the Spanish forces in the Gullah Wars. And that's why they was called. So they set up a military zone. They had the French come back, right, and set up Georgia as a military buffer zone. That's why it's there. Right, when you go into the history to tell you that the dude that you named you was just butchering, yeah, that's who asked for them to come and set up their military. That's why he gave them the charter. The charter is like a doe tag for a deer hunter.
Right.
Right. It's not the deed to the land for real. It's a squatter's right certification of squatter's right.
Right. That's what exactly
by
what it
order
is.
of the king of Europe, or European king.
Translated up.
Yep. So whether it was the one from France, Spain, or England, even though over here they looked like they was fighting each other, they was playing good cop, bad cop. Oh, Mutt and Jeff routine. They was working together the whole time. They weren't the only ones. They had Denmark, Portugal, right? So some lesser countries came. Germany all came over here with them. Right. So they over here, they acting like they having a conflict with each other. They not having no conflict. They just trying to trick us into thinking they having a conflict so that we'll fall into their trap. When it wasn't working, they resorted to the blood magic.
Right.
And we see last night when I had you look up about the conjure in the Civil War. Both sides was using it. That's what gave rise to the George Washington challenge.
They said the Bible was one of the critical conjures that the Bible was part of their conjure. That's crazy. Well, that ain't crazy. We know now, but damn, boy, this niggas out here still promoting that shit. It's part of the conjure.
Look, I'm gonna tell you how you know the Bible is a conjure book. They got what they call Psalms magic. And they use the Psalms in voodoo rituals when they learn how to harness the energy. The same tool they gave us to destroy us, we start using it and weaponizing it to fight for us. Right? That's called making your enemy your footstool.
Fire, bro.
You went into the fight unarmed, but you disarmed 3 people. Now you got enough arms to fight your way through.
Go ahead.
Right? That's what we was doing. But most of us don't want to talk about the conjure side because the church demonized it so bad that we don't really know that if we understood what it really was, how powerful we are using this voodoo. Screwfeds don't play.
That's right. Right. That's right.
So
bad man.
Yeah. So once you understand that they demonized our culture, they demonized anything connected to the divine feminine because that's our source of power. When we become men, we don't really become activated until we fall in love. That love turn all your knowledge into it. The more knowledge you got when you fall in love, the more power it generates. Heart chakra, crown chakra operating together. You can't miss. Therefore, you can't lose because love conquers all.
That's right. And desperation breeds obedience. Desperation breeds obedience. So that's their philosophy. These motherfuckers' philosophy, man. Yeah, they got some cool philosophies, man.
You remember earlier Remember earlier, and I told you they wanted us to feel like victims and stay stuck in the victim position, right? Because as long as you feel like the victim, you feel powerless. As long as you feel powerless, you won't use no power.
Damn, that's cold. What? Say it again. Shit.
Yeah. You a whole X-Man sitting there wondering when your power's gonna kick in, when you kick them in. It's some work that goes with activating your power. But you only one can know the work because you're the only one well enough to know what kind of power that you would possibly have. But we always neglect studying the psychic abilities because we might recognize our power if we do. Oh, that be happening to me. I thought that was normal. That been happening to me my whole life. I didn't know I was psychic. Now that you know you're psychic, you can understand the faculty. Right? A blind child, first time seeing, he's 5 years old, he's amazed. Like, look at all this shit. Sensory overload. Right? Well, we have the faculties to do certain stuff, but we don't know ourselves well enough, or we haven't done the self-work enough to know that I got to have some kind of other abilities, because why am I seeing life from the first person perspective?
Hey, cut you out, bro.
I don't know what that was. Can you hear me?
It made you low. Like it did last time when somebody called you. Say it again.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, there you go. It's back now.
I don't know what that was.
Somebody probably text you, try to call you or something.
I don't know. Probably, if they did, they was on social media.
Yeah.
Because this is my phone. They call you hear this sometime ring in the background.
Yeah. It says in live. Yeah, hey man. So we about to get up out here. I ain't want to hold you long, Roy. I think this was a good one, man. This is another one, man. We got at least the tribe know now. At least they could get a basics of the scam, of the banking scam, the monetary scam, pretty much, to keep us in this perpetuated state of debt. Got us thinking we ball out of control. If you got 100,000 to your ear, you don't got no money. Technically, that's legal tender, man. You got legal tender, man. Come on, man. Legal ain't no money.
You got a chunk of paper.
Yeah.
Look, somebody I had put a post up earlier. Some Hebrew Israelite dude come under my post talking about you ain't gonna make it if you don't know the laws of the Torah. I said, we don't use that brand of toilet paper around here, my brother.
Right? Now that's the good one. I'm gonna use that one. I'm gonna use that one. I guarantee you. Look,
I'm waiting on one of the Muslims to tell me about some Quran shit so I can tell them I don't use that brand of toilet paper either.
We use angel soft over here, partner. That's funny, man. That's funny. Hey, look. Hey, y'all, hit that like, hit that subscribe button. Like I said, man, everybody said raw 25 right now, man. I know y'all got it. Somebody, hey, for all my people that's broke, well, you ain't broke, because if you broke, you need to be fixed, right? Hey, but look at this, man. Yeah. Somebody set up 200, man. Somebody set up 200, man. You feeling good about it? What else? You want to say anything before we get out of here, Chief? Anything else?
I think I said enough.
Man, you cracked heads and twist caps. This is another one, bro. I'm telling you, man, we needed this. So, because once everybody understand the fraud mentally, it's already dissolved, really. And tonight, 12 o'clock, like you say, they rolling into the new currency. It's part of the alchemy. Because the state system was inevitable to fall, just like the Honorable Elijah Muhammad said. It's going the way out. They are running this outfit is eventually down to crash. That's what Elijah said.
It's a house of cards.
Okay.
With a hole in the bottom deck.
So on that note, man, we could drop the mic and walk off stage. Hey, y'all, we'll be back. Another one. Hey, let the three chiefs walk, man. Free Dr. Malachi Z. York. Free Larry Hoover. Free Jeff Fort to L. Rookie, y'all. Let the three chiefs walk. Shout out to all the matriarchs on the land, y'all. We'll be back. Peace and wadu. Till next time. We send divine love throughout the boundless universe to all. Never have it been made so clear.